Okay, we're live.
All right, we're live on YouTube. Let me get the presentation here. And this is going to be a very different topic, totally apparently unrelated to crypto, but I relate it to crypto in the sense that it will determine, in my view, the result of the elections, or will have a role on the results of the American election. So are we recording already? Just live, Mia?
No, we're recording as well.
We're recording. Okay, so all right, welcome back to another Crypto Vagabonds Academy Q&A. Today we have a subject which is not necessarily directly connected to cryptocurrencies, but to me it is indirectly connected in the sense that it may determine the results of the election in the US. So today we'll be talking about the two political parties, the Democrats versus Republicans, and we're going to pose the question, which one is the most racist? Now, before we go into this, I want to also make sure that people understand that, in my view, there is no such thing as an institution, except for maybe for KKK or neo-Nazi, but I don't see political parties as racist. I think racism is something that comes with human behavior. We all are born xenophobic to an extent or another. And I think as we grow, it depends on how much we dedicate to pay attention to our own xenophobia. It will depend on how racist we are. So let me start sharing my screen. We're going to have some audio and some videos here today on this presentation. So let me just get this. And I'll get the, let me know you can see my screen. Is that visible to you guys?
Yes, it is now.
Okay, so let me take things out of the way from Zoom. And, okay, so maybe this presentation of today is one that doesn't need the disclaimer, but is a good habit of keeping posting this. Nothing that we produce in any platform is to be considered financial, tax, or legal advice. So welcome to the Crypto Vagabonds Q&A. You can interact with us on Clubhouse, YouTube, Instagram, and X, and every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time here live on YouTube. The presentation of today, as I mentioned, may not be directly connected to cryptocurrencies except for determining or being a factor that may determine the results of the American election. And this is my own personal pursuit to find out who is more racist, Democrats or Republicans. And the way I'm going to be making a presentation today is to the following roadmap. First, we're going to look at the historical context on political parties and racism. Then we're going to look at the current instance of those political parties on racism. We're going to look at accusations against Trump being racist. And then we're going to be talking about Kamala Harris using her ethnical descendants to gain voters. So whenever we come to race, it's a very heated debate, but there are controversies between which one's more racist, Republicans or Democrat parties. Both of them have their own share on acting racist or discriminating against Afro-descendants, but the question still remains, which one of the two parties are more racist? And as I just mentioned, historically, both of them have their participation towards racism. I think racism is a human thing. We're xenophobic, but let's look at their behavior and towards their policies. So, and of course, those behaviors, they vary depending on the context, through time, history, social, political, and geographical factors. So let's start with the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party was created before the Republican Party in 1828, and they created the party, and the main agenda, the main role of the party was to be supporting segregation, Jim Crow laws, and supporting slavery. So the Democratic Party was created as a movement, as an organization to preserve slavery. The Republicans, on the other hand, they came almost 20 years later, and they were founded on the idea of anti-slavery. Now, just for something in the context, I'm not saying here that each of those parties are more humans or more or less racist. There's another motivation for the Republican political party, which was, of course, capitalism. People may not take this into account, but capitalism is what ends slavery. People realize that if they pay a wage to the worker, their workers are more productive than if those workers are slaves. So the first Republican president was Abraham Lincoln to take the nation into civil war. And the idea was that the civil war was waged on like the dispute between slavery and non-slavery. There were other factors as well. To me, the main factor was not just capitalism, but the fact that if there would be a divide between the country, there would be a lot of territory for the US to lose. The US is much more powerful as a complete territory instead of divided between South and North. So, but unescapably, the Democratic Party were the creators of the KKK or the Ku Klux Klan. And that was in 1965. And obviously, most of those members were Southern Democrats. So the KKK, and I could be totally wrong about this, it seems like a way for the Democratic Party to be able to continue to emphasize their view on race. Now, on the other hand, we have the Republicans on the post-Reconstruction, and after the 13th and 14th Amendments, they had the free men or Africans engaging in enterprise, but also becoming politicians. And of course, Democrats did not like that. The Democrats use violence, intimidation to regain their political power in response to the number of Afro-descendants becoming politicians. And the first senator, was Hiram Revels. He was a Republican, unescapably, and whenever he tried to take the seat, the Southern Democrats refused his seat. And one of the main arguments that they used was that he was not a citizen because he only became free a few years earlier. So there was not enough time passed for them to be citizens. And also, it was based on the Dred Scott decision, which stated that people with Afro descent, they were not citizens. And that pretty much aligns with the narrative and the story of Malcolm X when he says that Africans were not brought into America to be citizens, they were brought as livestock. So the Democrats argue that there was not enough time, as I just mentioned, the 9-year citizenship requirement for the Senate, and the 14th Amendment, which consider Africans as free men, it was only in 1868. So another movie, quite recent, the beginning of the last century, which was created by the Democratic Party, was The Birth of a Nation. And this is a movie that creates a lot of commotion in America, and it's very controversial because the movie pretty much displays the KKK as being heroes and people of Afro descent being villains. Here's a little bit of that movie for you guys.
Where a white family is beset on all sides by bestial black soldiers, played by white actors in blackface, to be saved at the last second by the film's heroes, the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. The standard story goes that Birth of a Nation was also the birth of the feature film, that it set the standards of Hollywood filmmaking, Hollywood storytelling, for the coming century. This film, which depicts Black America as an existential threat to white America, where a black man, played by a white actor, attempts to rape a white woman and drives her to suicide, where this same black man is lynched by white men in white hoods, which is framed as heroic. This film, which inspired a reinvigorated Ku Klux Klan and led to countless lynchings of Black Americans in real life.
So that was Birth of a Nation, and here are the words of Woodrow Wilson regarding that movie. So you can see here, the white men were roused by a mere instinct of self-preservation until, at last, there had sprung into existence a great KKK, a veritable empire of the South to protect the Southern country. So Woodrow Wilson was a Democratic president, and he endorsed the Birth of a Nation. And so that was until the 60s. So according to what I heard from people in America, things shift in 1960. The Democratic Party started to defend equality among races, and apparently here's where the Republicans went to the other side, which is quite interesting. I still don't understand how that happened, that Republicans were on one side of the spectrum, then they decide to shift sides simultaneously. I'm not sure how that happened. It's something which I hope to inspire like the conversation, find out more by sharing this video. So the post-civil rights movement, many white Southern voters shift to the Republican Party due to opposing of the civil rights laws that which are being implemented at the time. So then Nixon, a Republican, created a strategy called the Southern Strategy, which was adopted in 1960s and 1970s. This also caused an increase in incarceration of Afro-descendants, but it was also a way in which he could appeal to the racial tensions to emphasize state rights and get more votes. So apparently, both political parties are using racial tension for a long time as a way to gain votes. Now, after the 1960s, according to what I researched, it seems like there was a political shift because the laws of Nixon and the results of the civil rights movement caused also the voters to shift from one political party to another. Now, that was the past and that was the history. So where are we today? How does the parties behave towards racism today? So today we have the Democrats pretty much comparing Donald Trump with Adolf Hitler, which I think is a mistake. I think Adolf Hitler, there's no match to him yet, especially not Donald Trump or any other American politician. He has killed millions of people among Jews and Afro-descendants. So I don't see this comparison accurate, but it is there, and that's why I'm sharing here with you guys. Again, I do not agree with this. I'm just sharing this with you guys. So accusations on Donald Trump. In 1970, Trump's real estate company was sued by the Department of Justice for allegedly discriminating against Afro-descendant renters. In 1989, he called for the death penalty for a group of Afro-descendant and Latino teenagers which were wrongly accused of assaulting a jogger. In 2015, Trump referred to Mexican immigrants as rapists and criminals. In 2018, Donald Trump reportedly called African nations poop hole countries. Trump frequently told congressmen of color to go back to their countries despite them being born in the US. He also questioned the citizenship of Barack Obama. So here's some of the argument. And again, I'm not saying that I agree with this. I think it's a mistake to call any human being today on the planet or compare them with Adolf Hitler, but here's some comparison. They say that Adolf Hitler used racism to rise to the power, and so did Donald Trump. Not sure about that. Proposed mass deportations. Donald Trump has talked about that, but again, the president that deported most people in America has been Barack Obama. He deported more people than the whole 20th century of presidents all combined. So promise to make Germany great again. Yes, he's promising to make America great again. Hitler was anti-Jew fascist and anti-Muslim fascist. I'm not sure about that one. Blames Jews for Germany problems, blames immigrants for American problems. I'm not sure if that's accurate. I haven't seen that. I do see that he's actually talking about how immigrants at the time, now present in America, are bringing some problems, but it's not all the American problems. And thought that Jews should wear special IDs. Now, I'm not sure about this one. I haven't seen this one yet where Trump believes that Muslims should wear IDs, special IDs. So now we have a dispute between the two presidents, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Obviously, one of them is Caucasian, the other one is not. So Trump suggests that Kamala Harris has been misleading voters about her race, saying that she was always of Indian heritage and now she has turned Afro-descendant. The truth is, I have looked into this, and Kamala Harris is both. Her father is Jamaican, of Afro-descendant, not Afro-American, but Afro-descent, and her mother is Indian. So she has both descents on her. Donald Trump is obviously a Caucasian. But here is a video where someone asked Donald Trump about his view on race. And here to me is a point where I see unescapably, and this is the question I'm going to have for you guys, why the Democratic Party always insists in talking about race. Like, I think there was a subject on the table. Look at this interview.
Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a black woman?
Well, I can say, no, I think it's maybe a little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much. And she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She has always
But you know
identified
what?
as a black woman. She went to a historically black college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do
And
you
I
believe
think,
that
I think
she is
somebody should look into that too when you ask continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
So this was an interview. I saw a note to Therese. I want to talk about that after the presentation, though. So, and the question still remains: does Kamala Harris use her ethnicity as a way to gain voters? And this is the point where we're going to go a bit off racism and talk why I'm talking about this here at Crypto Vagabonds, and we're talking about the economy. It seems for the European people that America is now not looking at issues of the country or what's going on with the country, but it's more identity politics. And it seems like her ethnicity is a reason to vote for her and not her policies or what she intends to do in terms of serious problems in America. And that's another question that I want to have with you guys. Now, yes, she's from diverse heritage. She is, like, as I mentioned, Indian and Jamaican. So she's using that. I think it's more than understand that she's using that, but I'm curious about her policies as well. Now, she keeps emphasizing that her role as a woman, again, identity politics. I heard people saying that vote for her because she's a woman. We need a woman president. We haven't had that yet in the US. And once again, identity politics. Should we be voting for her based on her race, ethnicity, gender, and that would solve the problem? I have questions about that. Now, we have notable instances of both parties in races. We also have another one here I'm going to show you guys, where another Democrat interview persists on the idea of talking about race. Sorry, the video here first is Biden, how he totally dismissed this girl. And to this video, we have two footages where he totally dismissed her, and another one when he actually comes back and hugs her. So look at this. He's taking selfies. She smiles, she tries to greet him. He totally ignores her. I do not want to be in her shoes when this happened. So after that, there's a complete footage where he's coming back and he acknowledges her existence and he hugs her. So now here's the answer on Donald Trump on interview. So.
Mr. President, we so appreciate you giving us an hour of your time. I want to start by addressing the elephant in the room, sir. A lot of people did not think it was appropriate for you to be here today. You have pushed false claims about some of your rivals, from Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States, which is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabid to describe black district attorneys. You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network. And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the black population of this country. I've done so much for the black population of this country. including employment, including opportunity zones with Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, which is one of the greatest programs ever for black workers and black entrepreneurs. I've done so much, and and I say this, historically black colleges and universities were out of money, they were stone cold broke, and I saved them, and I gave them long-term financing, and nobody else was doing it. I think it's a very rude introduction. I don't know exactly why you would do something like that, and let me go a step further. I was invited here, and I was told my opponent, whether it was Biden or Kamala, I was told my opponent was going to be here. It turned out my opponent isn't here. You invited me under false pretense, and then you said you can't do it with Zoom. Well, where's Zoom? She's going to do it with Zoom, and she's not coming. And then you were half an hour late, just so we understand. I have too much respect for you to be late. They couldn't get their equipment working or something was wrong.
Mr. President, I would love if you can answer the question on your rhetoric and why you believe
have
that
answered
black
the
voters
question.
should trust you with another 4
I have
years.
been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer.
Better than President
That's
Johnson,
my
who signed the
answer.
Voting Rights
And
Act?
for you to start off a question and answer period, especially when you're 35 minutes late because you couldn't get your equipment to work, in such a hostile manner, I think it's a disgrace.
So, and here we have not politicians, but I see this dispute and this separation in the US. Here is a person that most Afro-descendants do not like, but it's Candace Owens.
In terms of starting my channel on YouTube and wanting it to be colloquial and wanting it to feel familiar, like you were talking to your brother and sister, and sort of taking back some of the turf that was lost on the culture war by making fun of people on the left in the same way that they make fun of us. I think that sort of helped bridge the gap and make people more interested in having the discussion.
Does it bother you that there's no prominent African Americans in the White House?
We have to stop believing in this illusion that because somebody is black, they represent my interests. We learned that lesson via Barack Obama. I mean, he was in the White House for 8 years and didn't do much for the black community. So I'm not interested in the color of people's skin. So I'm interested in what they do and what they accomplish.
I'm really interested in your perspective here.
Yeah.
So to you having, like, you don't look at, it is an administration that has more white men than past administrations have had.
Yeah,
but that doesn't bother you. You don't think that diversity is important?
No, not at all. I think that we have to stop believing that diversity is the color of people's skin.
There was another tweet that said the Democratic Party is comprised of racist white liberals.
That is correct.
Am I a racist white liberal?
Well, let's go back and let's say, I will say this, that many people in the party are not aware of their own racism. Let's go back to an early part of this conversation where you said to me, are you concerned about the color in the White House? Why would you ask me that question?
Because you speak about black issues.
No, but why would you ask me? But let's get to really the nucleus of this. Why did you ask me that question today?
Because
why did you feel that I needed to be concerned about that?
Because you're bringing a whole group of young African American leaders to the White House.
Okay, so this is something that I talk about often, is that in many ways, what liberals don't realize that you put on that, the racism and the conversations that we have.
So you're saying I'm a racist?
You haven't let me finish my statement. You keep cutting me off.
Go ahead.
Okay, the emphasis that you place is always on having a discussion about race. Okay, you guys are insistent on having a conversation about race and telling us that we should see, and implying that we should see race everywhere, and I don't agree with that. If you don't look at me according to the color of my skin, you would simply ask me how I thought that Trump was doing as a president. But instead, you try to drum up a conversation that's surrounded by race by asking me, are there enough black people in the White House?
So to me, that's a relevant question. That's why I put a video clip for last, like asking someone if they're concerned of Afro-descendants, if they're concerned about the amount of white people on the White House. I think that is an expression of racism in the sense that if she really didn't see race, she would just ask what she thinks about of the policies and how he's doing as a president. So to conclude, I think both parties have taken different positions throughout history, but neither of humans are free from being xenophobic or racist. I think we are by nature very xenophobic and therefore racist. We need to look at ourselves, in which way we express ourselves that are racist. It takes a lot of like self-reflection and self-knowledge in order for us to prevent ourselves from being racist. And I think it comes from both parties. Africans against Caucasians, Caucasians against African, Chinese. I think, again, we are xenophobic. If it wasn't the color of our skin, we would be discriminating by the color of the eyes, by the shape of the ears, by the wave on the hair or straight hair. we humans, in my view, are xenophobic, and we always look for different things to criticize one another. And I think we need to be able to self-reflect, look ourselves in the mirror, and see how much of that natural xenophobic nature we are expressing and how much of that we are aware of. So let's give a little recap. I spoke very briefly about historical context. I hope I got it right in terms of the political parties and racism. I also hope I got it right in terms of the current stance of parties on racism. The accusation against Trump, I don't think he's Adolf Hitler. And also about Kamala Harris talking about her ethnicity to gain voters. And now I want to yield the mic to you guys. This, again, has not much to do directly with cryptocurrencies, but it may affect the direction of the election. So now I'm going to stop and yield the mic to you guys. And I have questions for you as well. I think this is one of those presentations where I may have more questions for you than you guys have for me. So. We have Melanie, we've got Notorious. So,
Boof, I do have a question regarding cryptocurrency. Has Kamala Harris mentioned anything about cryptocurrency or not just her position, but like the Biden administration, or have you heard anything about the Democratic Party's stance on cryptocurrency?
Okay, I'm gonna answer cryptocurrency and something else. My concern with these elections, as someone who enjoys cryptocurrency, is that the Democratic agenda is more on Elizabeth Warren's side, where the US will be waging war on cryptocurrencies. So I didn't see any sign of Kamala Harris going away from that approach. Now, that is the approach, at least seen from the outside, is a Democratic approach, right? We have Donald Trump on the other side, where his vice president admits that he owns Bitcoin. And Donald Trump actually spoke at a Bitcoin conference in Nashville. So we have one political party that seems to be on the side of being friendly towards Bitcoin cryptocurrencies. And Kamala Harris and the Democrats seems to be on the opposing side. I haven't heard anything from her mouth, but if she's going to be the continuation of what Biden has done, we may expect harsher laws for those who are adopting cryptocurrency. Does that answer you, Notorious?
Yes, it does. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, Booth, to add to what you were saying too, Gary Gensler was the financial, like the one of the financial people for Hillary Clinton as well. So whatever you want to connect to that as well.
Okay, thank you for that. So that's my concern. To me, as a crypto person, if I was in America and if I would vote, which I don't, but part of me would root for a political party that is on the side of cryptocurrencies, not opposing cryptocurrencies. And I don't even want to get into the issues of Marxism and socialism with Kamala Harris. So that is my concern, but I'm not sure how it's for you guys in America. We have here Notorious, Ross, Melanie, which are Afro-descendants that I believe to be within the US. How is that for you guys?
Melanie put some comments in chat. She's at work, that's why she can't talk.
Okay. I see. So, Melanie, just to clarify, you would be like voting for and rooting for the Democrat victory on this election. Is that
sorry.
correct?
Yeah.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah. I would vote Democratic for the election. Although I know I would make more money the other way, but we are like, I really cannot stand Trump with his. So I'd rather just have not left money, to be honest.
Okay.
Just saying the truth here. I mean, I saw he was at the Bitcoin conference and all that. Kamala's people sent something to. I mean, she didn't come, but I think I heard that they were trying to. We have reached out to her. They're reaching out, so maybe they're trying to. I hope they don't have Gary Gensler there still and Elizabeth Warren. She doesn't like Elizabeth Warren. They had a feud a long time ago. I don't know if they're going to make up or what, but we don't even know if she's going to be president. But just saying.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Elizabeth Warren and Kamala didn't get along unless they made up in the recent,
Okay, I'm asking because I'm watching from an outsider, right? So I want to get understanding. Notorious, where do you stay if you feel like sharing? I know it's a very kind of intimate thing to be sharing here, but if you guys don't feel like sharing, I respect that as well.
Which way am I voting?
Which way are you rooting for? Voting or rooting for? I'm not voting, but I'm rooting for someone who is pro cryptocurrency. In this case, Donald Trump. So
okay, so I am a very inclusive person by nature, and so I'm for everyone doing well. I don't like people being considered outsiders or excluded from a conversation just because of whatever characteristic or whatever they have. So based on that, I am a Kamala proponent at this time because of the inclusivity and bringing people together. And it, for me, it's not all, I'm like Melanie, it's not all about the money all the time. If you treat people with respect, if you, make sure that they're well and they're, you're concerned about their well-being and you value their input and value who they are as human beings and the divine within each of them, then I think people would perform to their best abilities, right? And then you'll get more out of people. There would be more productivity, they'll want to work, they'll want to, show up for you, right? As a leader, I'm gonna say, like, as a leader, right? So if you treat them with respect and show that you care, I believe people are more willing to do more.
Okay,
That's just
I have a question for you then, because for you and Emily, because I'm gonna be sincere here, but how do you see the violation of private property when it comes to respect? Do you see something different in terms of, like, for instance, increased taxation on people or confiscation of cryptocurrencies, for instance? Would that still be on the line of respect for you?
Meaning that the government is going to confiscate people's crypto?
Or outlaw BTC, or like, because according to Elizabeth Warren, like, my main fear is her. Like, if she gets, like, if Democrats get elected and Elizabeth Warren gets more power, my question is, how do you see the violation of private property when it comes to respecting human beings?
Okay, first and foremost, I don't think she's going to get more power.
I don't either.
But yeah, I'm not
less
concerned
power.
about it. Yeah, Elizabeth Warren.
Less power. They're concerned
Right.
about the cryptocurrency market here a little bit. So I don't think it'll be the same as with Biden. I'm not promising that they would be perfect, but we probably would have we wouldn't have the tailwinds we'd have with Trump. I'll say it like that.
But Melanie, just hypothetically speaking, because we know that Elizabeth Warren is waging war on crypto, right?
Yeah, I hate it.
Okay. And
she's not doing it now. They passed some. She's not doing it anymore.
Okay.
Right.
So I'm not sure. I'm not fitting the best. I'm genuinely asking this question, because to me it's like, to me, I'm gonna explain to you what I see. Like, to me, a government, to me, this is my view, it should not be the role of government to conduct human behavior, right? To me, it should not be the role of the government to say, Caucasian should treat me in X white manner. I don't think that's the role of the government. I think the interaction that I have with human beings is dependent on my actions, not on the action of the government. But I do have an issue with the government, for instance, outreaching for my private property. I would always choose a government, no matter how racist they are, for them to respect my property. They can call me names, they can call me, but as long as they respect my property, I feel that's the role of government, and not to conduct human behavior. Am I making sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So if the government of Democrats are outreaching to, like, increase taxation or like depriving people of their property, how do you see that as respect?
So that's not the only thing on the ballot, crypto. There's a lot of other things like women's reproductive rights and and you know, things like that. So it's not just crypto. So I mean, if we had another, I actually do like Kamala a lot, so I'm hoping that she comes around. I'm sure it won't be as much as Trump, but comes. I mean, it wasn't her; it was Biden. She's a younger candidate, so I'm thinking they maybe they won't be as bad on crypto. But there's a lot of the other things that she's doing that I like. So I mean, if maybe if it wasn't Trump, I would vote for the Republican candidate, but I won't pick him ever.
Okay, I got it. Notorious, can you try to answer my question? How do you see like infringement of property rights and versus respecting humans?
Okay, so when it comes down to infringing on property rights, I am against that from a form of government, where government is concerned. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, but do you see, okay, do you see the Democratic Party more likely to infringe property rights, increase taxation, and things of that sort than the Republican Party, for instance?
So Democrats are, I'm sorry?
Or I'm wrong, I could be wrong too.
No, you're not wrong. Democratic philosophy is big government, like more government, more social programs, all that good stuff. And the Republican Party, as it stands today, is a limited amount of government reach, right? And so, especially at the federal level. And so, when it comes down to, if you're asking about crypto, again, I don't believe that that's going to be too much of an issue. You asked about taxes, increasing taxes, and I don't know for who, but probably all of us except the 1%, top 1%. You know, I'm sure we'll all be paying extra taxes, regardless of which party is in there, no doubt, you know.
Yep.
So that's just kind of where I stand with things.
But I still don't feel like Michael. So if we agree that big government is more likely to reach into private property, how do you see the infringement of private property and respect for human rights?
You're trying to get me to equate the two and see a correlation between the two.
No, I'm trying to ask a question. Like, for instance, like I say my answer, right? I don't think it's the role of the government to tell people how they should treat me. It's for me to determine how people treat me as I interact with them.
Okay.
So I personally, I'm very privileged. I don't have an issue if jobs are not open for me. Like I have that privilege. But I would want the government to preserve property rights. To me, between somebody calling me names or not wanting me to enter the restaurant and violating my private property, I see the violation of my private property far more disrespectful than calling me names, for instance, or not allowing me to enter a restaurant.
Right. You hold more value. That is more valuable for you.
Yeah.
Right?
So that's what I'm asking you, like, how do you see that?
What's more valuable for me is, again, more of a human interaction, interpersonal interaction. It's more of a human to human type of situation. That's what I value more so than, I guess, my property rights. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So if I interact with you well and I violate your private property, you feel like I disrespect you less than
you're not going to violate my property rights because I'm going to take care of mine. I'm going to hold mine down, okay? But at the same time, you're not going to disrespect me either as a human being. Does that make sense?
Okay. 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 Roz, I'm not sure if you're in condition to speak, but the question also extends to you, Roz. And I'm genuinely asking. I'm not trying to trigger anyone. It's a genuine question, though. Please.
Okay, where should I start? I have an issue with both sides, and if people are one issue voters, then their answer is clear. Like you said, as far as crypto, then if that's the only thing if that's the thing that you value, the one thing that's the most important to you, then I understand your vote. But there are, I value several things on, so it goes on both sides. So I'm not happy with either one of them. But I do, and I'm more concerned about, let's say Trump, in terms of human rights, and especially being a minority. Because again, money can be replaced, things can be replaced, right? So, but if a person has shown themselves to be, I'll say, racist, why would I want to put a person in that type of position with that type of power that could potentially take away my freedoms, my rights as a Black person? We have Black farmers that were just that have been discriminated against for years, that won a lawsuit finally because they had been fighting against not only the system but other white farmers, right? With the harassment and everything. So things like that are a real concern for me. Yeah. And so yeah, I could never vote for Trump at all.
Okay.
Period.
May I ask a question? So you're talking about voting for Trump or voting Republican? Or they're two the same too?
It's a little bit of both, to be honest.
Okay.
Because I've heard the rhetoric from many of the Trump supporters that are the same. And I think the more emboldened that he was while in office, it just fueled those who follow him to do the same. That's what I've observed. I've observed some Republicans that I really would have considered voting for after he got in office. They took the mask off, essentially. So that's where I am right now. But there are things on the Democratic side that concern me as well that I can't say I'm in support of. So unfortunately, it's the extreme, on both sides. And yeah. So in terms of voting, I don't know. I just know it won't be Republican. Haven't decided yet if I'm willing to vote Democratic just to keep from voting Republican. I don't know. So we'll see how this goes. But in terms of the issue regarding race and regarding why it seems like Democrats are always bringing up race, no, the issue is we're hearing people like Trump say stupid stuff about people related to race, and we have to question it. So what do you believe, or what do you think? What is it? Or are you planning to do? Are you a Hitler? You know what I'm saying? Or do you have the same mindset and ideas regarding white supremacy? That's a valid question. So when you have that type of language coming from someone who's supposed to be or wants to be the leader, again, of the most powerful country in the world, yeah, if I live here as a minority, then it's a concern for me. And so my only other option then is to just leave the country. And that's still an option for me. So that's where I am.
And I just want to clarify something here. I was laughing, not that we're saying. I just saw, I did not know exists. Hashtag never Trump. Only post that in the chat. I found that funny. So that was my smile. It was not about the content of what you're saying. But go ahead, Cora. So sorry, Ross. You want to say something else? Go ahead, Ross.
Oh, I was just going to say, no, I wasn't offended, by you. Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Go ahead, Cora.
So, of course, I'm not from the US. Could you tell me what was, besides what he says and speaks, what is the worst thing he did for the country in any direction?
I like that question.
So I think that's for Russ. Go ahead, Russ.
Anyone. Yeah.
Are you asking what's the worst thing he did in the
As
US?
a president,
Trump?
yeah.
As a president. Because
Incited
at least
an insurrection against our own government. We saw it on TV, the whole thing.
Okay, Melanie. I think Melanie. I think that doesn't qualify as him as a president. There's disputes on that, but I think what she's talking about, like which policy, which law he passed as a president.
Yeah,
like,
besides his personality,
that has
besides his
not him as a
speeches.
person, him as a president.
Yeah.
As the president. So you mean like, how about he placed a Supreme Court that took away the rights of women that's been there for 50 years?
What specifically talking about?
Sorry?
The right to abortion, he handed it back to the states.
We're talking about, she's talking about abortion. He left it up to the states instead of making it federal.
A rule that's been there for almost 50 years. Yep.
Okay, so in your view, the removal of a federal law for abortion rights will leave on the hand of the state. That's one thing. Notorious and Ross, what is the worst thing he did as a president in your views?
Didn't move fast enough on the COVID deal. Made fun of it, said it was fake, and then caught it, and then was first one to get the freaking jab. But he was allowing other people to die at the same time, talking about, just the misinformation, disinformation he was given. And first and foremost, even before COVID got here, was he dismissed and dismantled the playbook that Obama had put into place in order to deal with the next pandemic. It was already a playbook, rule book in place. The committee was there, and he totally dismantled the committee, and then allowed, the virus to take over, and not take over, but you know what I mean. The virus to spread without acting fast enough and keeping that away from people. We lost a lot of people. So that's another.
Ross?
Ditto to everything they just said. I agree.
Is there anything to add?
Nothing to add.
Okay. So another question. Has Donald Trump done anything positive as a president? What is the most positive thing he did?
Oh, he built a wall. Let him tell it, right?
Okay. Okay. So you see the wall was a positive thing.
So wait.
Go
ahead.
Melanie, and he got Mexico to pay for it. Oh my gosh, he's still telling that lie.
Okay, no. I mean, seriously, is there any policy that he has taken as a president that you think was positive?
Well, I can give you. Well, it wasn't positive for the people. He lowered the interest rates for corporations, not for us. He promised you to do that again, not for the people.
You mean, Melanie, do you mean taxes? You mean taxes?
Right. The taxes. That's right. The taxes. Sorry. He lowered taxes for corporations, not for the people. Yeah, that's really great. Like, we really want that. Thank you.
So I think honestly, you guys are not. I think you still name something which you see as negative, not as positive. Ross?
Oh, nothing to add.
Okay, so I want to.
What do you know? I was going to say, what do you
okay,
have?
I'm going to tell you as an outsider.
Okay,
a geopolitical role, like many countries, not just one country. I'm not a citizen of the U.S. Something very positive that I think Donald Trump has done as a president, and I'm not disputing that he didn't do anything negative. I'm just want to be fair and look both sides. The Abraham Accords, I think, was phenomenal. I'm not sure how he got that idea. I'm not even sure if it's his idea. I find that really the Abraham Accords. The idea, if Biden had not stalled the Abraham Accords, which got into with Donald Trump, Israel and the Middle Eastern countries will be in a treaty of peace between themselves. That is something geopolitically speaking fantastic. We would not have the war of Israel today. The second thing that he did or didn't indirectly, there was no war. It's important to understand, under Obama, Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine. Under Trump, there was no invasion. Under Biden, the invasion continued. So, and again, I'm talking about geopolitically. He warned many times, he predicted that Germany would be in trouble in energy, which we are paying now today. So also another thing that he did internationally, he got the NATO countries to pay their share of agreement on how much they should invest into security. So there are a few things that he has done internationally, which I think is positive. But again, I can only look internationally because I'm not within the US. And again, I'm not defending him. I'm just trying to look at like what's something positive or negative he has done instead of just like, because I think we all fall into this idea that this person can want to do something wrong. I think there's a lot of things that he has done that I think is wrong, but I also believe he got a few things right. So even myself, I get a few things right, a few things wrong. I don't believe like it's healthy to look at someone and say, no matter what this person do, everything's going to be wrong or negative. I think have an open mind and say, okay, this is positive and this is negative. I think it's a more, I don't know, reasonable approach, at least in my view, though.
And
So
that's fair. That's fair. And so I don't know if either of us three were saying he didn't get anything right, right? What you named off were like foreign policy, international. What we were looking at is from a domestic perspective, right? At least I was.
I can help with the domestic point
okay.
of view.
Please, Alchemist, share something domestically he did right for the people.
Well, I'll start by saying that something that I think we agree with. I think that he really messed up on the COVID thing, but not, in my opinion, not because he didn't shut it down soon enough. It's that he did shut it down. I don't think that we should have shut down the country at all. I think that we should have kept the economy going. That's just that's the thing that I don't agree with Trump doing. Obviously he wasn't able to stop printing money because that problem was like 20 years ago. But what he did do is he did put that money towards more manufacturing jobs as well as like production of goods and services for the US, which is good. He essentially bought the lows of oil during the COVID crash. He filled up our strategic petroleum reserve. What else did he do? Oh yeah, well the border as well, like the border. I think one of the only things that the government, if we're going to have a government, what they would be doing well is national defense. I think a strong border is probably the first thing that you would go to that. Having a strong border is probably like priority number one for that. Not because of like immigrants are bad, but just because like people can attack you from within and it leaves you vulnerable. So those are some good domestic things I like. But the COVID thing, I do agree with. He didn't do that correct, but for the opposite reason. I don't think he should have shut the economy down at all, because we're dealing with the repercussions of that now. So,
and I want to say something about the COVID issue, and because we had two presidents in America that thought it was not a good idea to close the economy. If I remember correctly, Donald Trump was reluctant to close the economy. So was Bolsonaro in Brazil. Now, there's a lot of criticism to Bolsonaro and Donald Trump not wanting to close the economy. However, I happened to be in Europe at that time, and there is a neighboring country that did not close the economy here in Europe. And here's the thing, though. They had less debt than all their neighbors in Europe, and they had less impact on the economy. So I just want people to understand, like, it was not just Trump and Bolsonaro who was trying to keep the economy open running. There was one country that was bold enough to do this here in Europe. I think it was Denmark or Sweden. And when you look at the numbers of their debts and everything else, I think I even made a presentation about that. I'm not sure if I actually published that video, but
yes,
they got better results. They got better results. Yeah. You remember that, right, Mia?
Yes, I do.
I think it was Denmark or Sweden. I don't remember which one of the two.
I will check now, but yes, one of them. I remember that.
So I'm just saying this because it's easy for us to fall into this bubble and say, oh, not too close is a ridiculous argument, but other countries have done it, at least one country in Europe. And I actually took the numbers from, for instance, Netherlands and other neighboring countries. The countries that force vaccination and close down, they got more deaths than the country that never closed its borders and say it's optional for you to take the vaccine. And the economy didn't tank as much as the other countries, though.
It's Sweden.
Sweden, yeah. But Sweden, yeah. So what did you do? We did the presentation for the academy. How did we do that? I don't remember what we did with that. I remember we researched that, Mia.
I don't remember too, but I remember that we spoke about it. Maybe we spoke about it in academy.
I think we spoke. I'm not sure if we made a presentation for the Academy or not. The only reason I'm saying this is because it sounds ridiculous when you say like, no, don't close the economy. But I use this as an argument because people in Brazil were demonizing Bolsonaro because Bolsonaro didn't want to close the economy. So, and
a fun exercise that people can do is they could go and look at the flu deaths along with the COVID deaths and like compare it to the years, to the date, yep, you already see it. I see it.
I have done
the deaths of the flu, like during COVID, it literally just like fell off a cliff, like on the years that COVID were. So it's like when COVID came, all of a sudden nobody started to die from the flu anymore. And as soon as COVID ended, the flu started to come back. Just weird, just very, very strange. But
the other thing also that I know personally, I know people personally who got ill and one person who died from the vaccine. So another thing I know it's not about COVID, but I'm just letting people know that I know one person who is in very ill situation as a result of the vaccine, and another person who died. Go ahead, Notorious.
Oh, I was going to mention that people were still dying from the flu. They just probably weren't reported as heavily as COVID because they were identifying anybody who had an ounce of COVID in their system whenever they tested, and if there was a death associated with it, they called it COVID, right? Because of the comorbidities that the people had, right? And I'm sure they were financially incentivized to do so, right? In order to call it a COVID, because you were getting government funding in order to keep the hospitals open and things like that. And so there were still people who had the flu at the same time. And yeah, people still do die from the flu as well. So, there are some, yeah.
So I have a question now regarding something else. It's regarding the political dispute, the presidential. What is your view on the vice president that Kamala chose?
Politically, I have no view on him because I don't know his record or anything like that. But just from a decent human being perspective, he seems pretty cool, like a cool dad, you know, a girl dad. He hangs out with his daughter, things like that. I don't know politically what his.
I know something he has done. That's why I'm asking. Go ahead, Roz.
Well, from what I've heard and read, I think that was the best choice, mainly because they said he tends to be bipartisan. He's able to get to cross, lines to get things done. The fact that he served in the military, I think that helps him tremendously. Even when it comes to education, he's worked in the school system. That experience helps. So, in general, I believe he has, and if you're talking about reaching mainstream America, I think his interactions and experience in those areas matter when it comes to the matters in the United States that might affect the people of the United States. And his age, I think, I don't know how old he is. I know he's
60.
Yeah, 60. Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say I know he's not 70, thankfully. but so in terms of experience and wisdom that come to some with over time, let me say. Of course, time and age doesn't always equal wisdom, but it sounds like if you're able to communicate with people that you might have disagreements with, where you may not, see things the same, if you're able to cross the lines just to get things done and to be able to hear, listen, compromise, or whatever, I mean, that says a lot. So that's based on what I know so far. I haven't done a deep dive, but that's from what I know.
I know something from him from before, which is concerning to me, but I want to hear Melanie and someone else, and I can say what is my concern with him as as a vice president?
So, I mean, I can't think by heart, but I saw them yesterday in the rally in Philly, and people really liked him. And I work here in New York in the hospital. We've all been talking about how great he seems. He's the president of, I forgot, is it the president of the Governors Association?
He's the governor of, I think, Minnesota. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the governor, but he's also the president of the governors, something like that. Our governor Cuomo held that position before he was outed. So now this guy, I mean, he seems like a really solid guy, really solid. And besides that, I think Nancy Pelosi, which is was our the head of the House of Representatives, used to be, she approved of him, so I was impressed with that. I can't think off the top of my head of anything else, but yeah, he sounds really, really good. Yeah.
Okay, so I wanna pull something domestically, which I think is concerning for Americans. He's trying to pass a bill that authorizes the government to pretty much remove their kids from their parents if they do not do gender affirmation, which means if you refuse, like the sex change. I don't want to like be very explicit here, but he agrees that if the parent does not approve a teenager to have sex change, that parent should go to jail and the child should become a property of the government or under the care of the government. So that's one bill from him that I think is concerning to me. So
wait, Booth, you mean like kids under the age of 18, or you mean
yes.
Okay.
So
and that's one of the things that's concerning for me on the Democratic side. One of the major things I think that's an issue. That's why I said either side I can't, I don't.
Right.
Did you
and
know?
I'm sorry,
go ahead.
Boo.
No, I just make sure that you knew about that, or you guys are finding this out from me. So I just don't know.
I'm finding that out from you because, again, he just got named and I haven't done any deep dive on who he is, right? On what he represents.
I was having like a guess that 4 days ago he would be the pick for her, but I didn't have like a solid source. So I started to look at him like 4 days ago. Go ahead, Dr. Ross. I think I cut you off.
Oh, no, I was going to say, I did not know that. So that, again, gave me more reason not to vote and to move.
You vote with your feet, not with the...
Exactly, vote with my feet.
Melanie? And then we can...
No, I really didn't know that, so that doesn't sound too good.
Yeah, Alchemist.
Yeah, I mean, no, nothing. I mean, that's just, I mean, I did some brief research on him too. He's basically just like a typical like Democrat, but that's pretty extreme. That I didn't know that. So yeah.
Yeah, and that was one of the things I was getting ready to say. So we're talking about Trump and why we would never vote Trump. And then we can also talk about the far extreme left that, policies and ideologies that I don't agree with either. And, Ross kind of hinted to those as well. The border situation, the immigration policies, the migrant policy, and then just that whole what do you call those things? What do you call those when they do the sex change, transgender stuff?
Yeah.
With children, that's absurd to me, right? To not have your parents involved in things like that. And so, when I hear like what California may be doing as far as their laws and saying that the kids, schools don't have to tell the parents if a child comes to them, a teacher or someone in school, and tells them they want to start doing transitioning type of drugs, and doctors don't have to tell their parents. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. So it's not a matter of dumping on Trump. It's a matter of dumping on all the craziness that's going on out there in politics for me. So it's not just, like I said, the Republicans. And I can go on a rant, but I won't. Go ahead.
No, but please finish. We are a bit over time, but please finish on the third.
Okay, so my rant about the Trump and his supporters, and I understand they're not all Republicans, right? All Republicans are not MAGAs or maggots, whatever they call them, right? Those real far right Trump supporters. it's as if the Republican Party, the traditional Republican Party, right, before Trump came along, had conservative views, and they were more traditional in their family values, in the way they saw things, less government, stay out of my pockets, and just kind of let me run my business, stay away kind of thing. I totally get it. I have voted conservatively before in the past, right? Trump got on stage and it hit the fan, right? All the divisiveness, the racial rhetoric, all of that just exposed people and they lost their minds, right? And so with that, now we equate everything Trump with the Republican Party. And that's why I can say at that point too, that never Trump, hashtag never Trump, right? Because it's like the traditional Republicans, the moderates, the conservatives, the ones in the middle will not speak up for anything. Why are they allowing that small subgroup, unless they're part of it, that small maggot following dominate the party like that and just take over? I do not understand that. Same as on the left. Like, what in the world is happening here? And so, okay, that was my rant. I'll stop.
Yeah,
it's just insanity.
I feel very sorry for the U.S. I really do. I feel sorry for American people, because I don't think you guys have a good choice. It's between two very bad choices, and you have to make up your mind. I think, Cora, unmute yourself. Go ahead, Cora.
Oh no, I did not.
So, guys, that's it. We're 13 minutes. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, I'm not a maggot or whatever they call them, but I do like Donald Trump. I do think he's better than any Democratic candidate. And for someone like me who has a very a high percentage of his net worth in crypto, this is important, right? It's not just the crypto, but it's one part of it. If the Democrats get in office, what's going to happen is they're going to try to ban and regulate crypto. They're going to put in CBDCs. They're going to try to implement central bank digital currencies, and they're going to try to make everything unregistered securities for crypto. And that's obviously very important to me, because that dictates, I mean, I'm 27, so it's going to dictate, where I'm going to be, in a lot of ways. So I do believe that the Democrats are going to try to cheat the election. I do think they're going to try to do it. And I'll just say this: I am going to do everything I can to ensure that they won't cheat. And Pennsylvania is a swing state, and I have, listen, it is what it is. And if we lose, I'm probably leaving, because not just because of the crypto, but just where the country is going to end up being headed. It's not in a good spot, not in a good place at all. And and the writing's on the wall in terms of crypto. Like the Democrats, the House, they're all anti-crypto. They call them, money laundering terrorists, all this stuff. And then the Republicans just happen to be on that side of self-custody and more economic freedom. They always have. So yeah, that I just, in terms of crypto, the Democrats getting into office is a terrible thing for America. It really is.
I second that in terms of crypto. But again, this is Crypto Vagabonds, and I hope now you guys can see how this, even though it doesn't seem to be directly correlated with cryptocurrencies, it does correlate with cryptocurrencies. And I think the results of this election will be determined which direction cryptocurrencies go in terms of everything else. Because one thing we do know, the West tends to follow the US. So whatever approach the US takes, Europe and other major countries, Canada and so on, may want to take, even other countries of South America. So it is a point of concern to me. That's why I want to start this conversation. But I think it's very important to have a clubhouse room or some kind of encounter, notorious, where we talk about this far left as well of the Democratic Party, because I think that is also concerning for the rest of the world. Anyway, we are over 15 minutes over time. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for the conversation, and thank you for having an open mind and keeping a civil conversation, because I know the topic is very difficult. I took my chances, and I'm glad with the results. Appreciate you all. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Everyone. See you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.